Now that we have painted the sky, we're ready to start working on the rest of the painting. With any painting, no matter what it is that you're trying to attempt, especially in acrylics, you should try to work background, foreground. The only paint that maybe you don't have to do that with would be watercolor. But with acrylic and even oil, you want to work background first and then move yourself forward. And the reason for that is because if you don't, and you get down here, if you've done your focal point first and you have all this detail work, trying to paint in between the little details, paint your background, it's super difficult, number one. And number two, it's real easy to get that particular background paint on top of some of your foreground. And so then there's this play of what's coming forward and what's going back. It's also just a really good practice. That said, we need a good resource image. So you're going to need to go out and take some photographs. You don't want to go to the internet and borrow, because you get into some copyright legalities when you do that. The best thing you can do is go take your own photograph. When you go out to take your photograph, you want to have something more than just land and sky. You want to have maybe a little cabin or a tree that's really interesting, or a pond or lake, maybe even a little bit of wildlife in there. Something that you can focus on. Think about the rule of thirds, all right? So now, that said, we're gonna get started. Let's talk about supplies. For this portion, I'm going to basically paint just this background area, and I'm going to take my resource image that I have here. So I have this resource image. I'm going to think about this silhouette, and I'm going to paint in just a really dark, muddy color. I'm going to change up that color a little bit, but basically it's going to be a nice muddy color. Supplies. You're going to need a brush, and my favorite brush is a flat or bright that is about 3/8 of an inch wide, maybe a 1/2 inch wide, nothing bigger. And you're going to need water, you're going to need your palette, you're going to need paint. I'll list the colors that I'm going to be using off to the side over here, and we'll talk about them as I go. And you're going to need a paper towel and, of course, your plastic palette knife. My favorite color for making mud is to use sap green and Dyesign purple. Those two make the most beautiful dark substitute for black. And when you are first beginning, you want to avoid black like the plague, because black in your painting will dominate. And in dominating that painting can kill the painting faster than anything that you can do to your painting. So, and the whole idea behind using a landscape as one of your first paintings to learn with is to learn about color mixing. In avoiding black, we're going to have to get creative with mixing our darks. We're also going to get creative with mixing our greens, because it's a landscape. I've got a whole bunch of different greens, and if I use the same green throughout, you're not going to be able to tell one tree from another. So that's another reason why I just love landscape painting for beginning painting. I have here at the house what we call hooker's green. Hooker's green is a little bit more blue than the sap green that I really love. So I'm going to tone it down. I'm going to take a little bit of red in my palette knife, and I'm going to mix it with that green, and it will become a little bit more like sap green. Yo, that's really close to what sap green would look like. And if I take the purple that I have and I mix it, I still have green. The more purple I add, the more purple blue it gets. And you can see that it's a nice, really nice dark color. Over here, I mixed another color, but I put a little bit too much red, but I like it. I like it because it's different than this one. Notice that I did not squirt out very much paint. I only squirted out a little bit. Again, I can't put the paint back in the tube. So squirt out a little bit, you can always squirt out more. I also want to test out using that little bit of blue, that same blue that I used in the sky. So if you use cerulean blue or whatever, I'm going to put a little bit of that out. And I'm going to pick some of that up as I go. This was anthraquinone blue. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I'm going to start basically with a silhouette, and I'm just going to paint. Then I'm going to let it dry, and we will have our background that we can layer some white stuff on top of. And that just works so well. The beauty of acrylic paint is that it layers so nicely, really nicely. I will bring this line down further than I need it to be. I can draw the line here where I think I want it to be. I don't want it to be dead center. Right now that looks like it is dead center. But when I get finished, my horizon line is probably going to be closer to up here. I just like to pull it down so that I make sure that I cover that surface. So again, I'm going to put all this black in here, not black, dark color. It's green and purple mixture. Now when I get up into the sky, I want to start letting there be some lacy things going on, because that sky is going to show through. And I don't want it to just be a solid mass of whatever. So I'm going to put a few little lacy things up there. One of the things that beginning artists want to do sometimes when they're doing this is they go, okay, I'm gonna do a landscape, but I'm gonna do a silhouette. A silhouette is fun. A lot of younger artists really like working with silhouettes because they're very simple, but you don't learn as much from a silhouette. You don't learn about the variety of greens and things that can happen if you have something that's in the light of day, right? Yeah. And I'm going to take a little bit more blue, just because I want to just put some blue here and there. Like I said, sameness is boring, and we want to change that up. Even though you can barely tell the difference, it's there. I know it's there. And a discerning eye, once it's finished, might be able to see it as well. And now my trick is to make sure I don't have any gunkies. So I'm going to look at it very closely and make sure the gunkies are gone. And I'm going to take my wet brush so that I don't waste any, and just pull that down. into the canvas with a real watery. And looking at my picture, I have kind of a little dark spot here, and then I have another tree that's a lot lighter that's showing up right in here, and then I have another lighter tree showing up here. I have something that's a little bit greener here, an evergreen that's right in here, and then another lighter yellow green in here. So I've got a variety of greens in this photograph that I'm going to be working from. Again, I'm going to be changing it up as I go. I'm going to start with the back one first. And what I've done is I have squeezed out a little yellow and a little orange. And I have gotten my favorite abused brush here. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's because I've tapped on it so much, the bristles are kind of far apart. They make the most delicate, beautiful leaves. As I'm going. I'm also going to be working with my flat again. In fact, I probably will start with my flat and we'll work this area here. So I have this sap green and I want to push it back and have it a little lighter. So I'm going to take a little bit of yellow to it. Notice this time I'm not using my palette knife, and the reason why is because I don't want that to be fully mixed. And I'm going to grab up a little bit of this white. Let me find it. There he is. Okay. It's kind of a brown green. And a little bit more yellow to that. And it has kind of a nice gray color to it. And I'm just going to come over here and tap on top. I'm getting kind of long things going on. My paint is not fully dry, but you can see that that dark color is coming through. You could use a round brush, you know, really and truly as you are experimenting. putting in these tree trunks, notice how I use my pinky as a stabilizing agent, I guess, because it helps me have better control of the brush. Back there, I'm going to take this muddy yellow that I've got that's basically orange and hooker's green, and come in and let some of this play. It's hard to paint sideways so that you can see. Apologies. I would call this middle ground in here that I'm working on. So we will let this be another segment, and I will come back and let this dry. This just gives me a guideline